What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. Chance and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome everyone to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell and a guest and friend of the show, a man who needs no introduction to all of you. I'm sure you have seen him, you love him, and let me. It's Ingraven. Let me just say that. But I'm so impressed with your work ethic. Let me just say, when news breaks, news pops up. ESPN, Bleacher Report. And I go immediately to YouTube to see, some coverage on it. And Ingraven, you done did a video hour and a half before the notice popped up. I'm like, how does he know? I mean, you know what's going on before ESPN has it. You got it. You done did a half hour on it. I'm like,
gosh.
I don't know what sources you have. Are you on? Is that Schefter texting you when I see him with his phone out?
Yeah, that would be nice if it was, man. But I don't got it like that, unfortunately. But it's all good, man. I appreciate you all having me on again. It's always super fun coming on here, man. I love you guys' work. Like I was telling you earlier offline, y'all say we going big or we not going at all. So I appreciate just the different guests that y'all have had on, all the live streams that y'all do, all the different premieres that y'all do, and just bringing your own style of Ravens content for everybody. And just the way that the streams go so smoothly, y'all always have good conversations, good topics, good stuff, man. And I was talking to my wife a little bit ago about it. I'm like, man, I remember these two guys before they even jumped on YouTube. I remember when y'all first hit me up and we would the Patriots game. Patriots game 2019 before that. And I'm like, these guys back then, they were talking about, we're thinking about jumping on YouTube, showing our face and whatnot. And I was like, okay, go for it. And y'all went for it. And like, y'all been killing it. So I'm glad y'all stepped out here too, man. So
appreciate that. Appreciate that for sure. It's been an absolute blast. And like Glenn said, much respect and much love for the show. Make sure you guys check it out. I'm sure everyone watching this video has already subbed and absolutely knows who Ingraven is. But if you haven't, of course, go check it out. But we're excited to get into this, man. This is one thing I got to say. People do ask us. I have to admit, I'm going to brag really quick. People do ask us, like, what do you guys do off air? Like, where's the organization? Where does the flow come from? Like, you guys just seem like it's fluid, right? Hey, this is just Haskell or Rascal and Glenn Martin. This is what we've been doing since we're sitting on the front porch. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what it is. It's been like this forever. I'm pretty sure people have been watching us eating popcorn for years. Like, it's just, we just turned the cameras on, but nothing really changed. I think that's my favorite part of the show. But no, we appreciate that. But we want to get right in talking about this all the storylines that go into this third preseason game and even into the season. And this is where I want to start. Shaun Wade got traded today. So I want to start with the corners right there. So Glenn and I were both excited about the trade. So first of all, I want to get your thoughts there. And then how do you see this cornerback room shaping out? So what were your thoughts on the trade, man?
I did not like it. I understood it, but I did not like it. I understood that, he was behind pretty much everybody that was in the room. However, I still didn't like it. Because I know, like, especially with Chris Westry, he's somebody that definitely had an impact on Shaun Wade's status. Nigel Warriors looking like, and even Ardarius Washington. And even though Ardarius Washington is a safety, we have seen the Ravens play him at corner. So I'm sure that had a big impact on Shaun Wade's status. And when you have a plethora of cornerbacks in the room, it's a good problem to have. But at the same time, you have an excess and you can't keep everybody. And that's one of the when they talk about the parity in the NFL, this is part of it. Teams, they can't keep all the same players every single year. I mean, minus the Bucs from last year to this year, but they can't keep everybody every single year. There's going to be turnover. There has to be change. But in this case, when they traded somebody that they literally just drafted, I was like, oh, come on now. Or like, why? For what? But I did understand the why and for what. But
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this real quick. I thought about the same thing. I thought, man, I don't remember the last time the Ravens gave up on a guy so fast, especially because, look, the Ravens believe their own eyes and their own team's information above anyone else. With good reason. That's why we consider them one of the top drafting teams in the NFL. I think we have the most Pro Bowlers in the past 5 years or whatever the case may be as far as our own draft picks. So how bad must he have looked? Because Glenn and I only went to one practice and he looked terrible.
Yeah, he looked bad. Jalen Moore giving it to him. Michael Darius giving it to him. Every member of the media said they don't know how he makes the team, but then he shows up in the game and he makes plays in the game. So it's like a head scratcher. But to me, it was more like a compliment to Westry, a compliment to Warrior, to Brandon Stevens, like you mentioned, Adarius Washington, more so than an indictment on Shaun Wade. And maybe they just felt he was further away from being game ready than those other guys.
Right. And with cornerback, that's one of the hardest positions to play in football and definitely in the NFL, and especially with all the rules now that benefit the offense, it made the position even harder. And how much can we really expect out of a 5th round cornerback? There's obviously a lot of potential there, but at the same time, how much do we really expect right here, right now? And with what you guys were saying, that in the practice, we heard a lot of bad things about Shaun Wade, but then when the game turned on, when the lights turned on, the crowd was there, he was right there on the field playing in the actual game, he turned it on. So it could be one of those things where maybe he's just not one of those practice guys. He's one of the guys that doesn't like studying for the exam, but he still ends up passing it. But now we'll see how he passes it in New England.
I don't study and I don't pass. I'm neither one of those
people.
Stop
it, Jimbo.
I don't study and I don't pass.
Oh,
wait, did I freeze again?
You froze.
I'm so tired of freezing, man. This is terrible.
The good thing is the audio is perfect.
I know, man. It couldn't be any better. I'll tell you what.
What is going on?
Here, I'm going to remove you real quick and see if that helps.
All right.
All right. Well, it sounds like, I'm glad that he had a different perspective, because a lot of,
And that's what I was telling you when we did that video. There was definitely people that I thought everyone was going to hop onto our side, right? Like, just kind of say, agree with us in that we were going to get nothing, but we got something type scenario, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But there were a lot of people that were really high on Shaun Wade, really high.
Yeah, I mean, he played well, in 2019. I think it got people really excited about the what if, but, I guess my whole thing on the, why he may have been better in games is just because maybe the Ravens didn't like what they saw when they put him in different scenarios in practice. So in the game, they put him in scenario where he could succeed and hopefully increase his trade value.
All right, Ing, I'm going to bring you back in here, see how this goes.
All right, let's see.
We're back.
There he is.
Back in the building. But so, I guess it remains to be seen, but certainly the Ravens draft track record as of late certainly looks a lot better than the Patriots. I mean, we were just talking about the Patriots haven't drafted a Pro Bowler in Ravens since 2013 when they drafted Jamie Collins. That's how long it's been since they've had a homegrown Pro Bowler, and that guy didn't even make it very long. They traded him away, and I think they ultimately brought him back. But you know what I mean? So they obviously know, Bill Belichick knows, look, I need a corner, and I can't find any good players. So let me go to the place I know can find good corners, and runs a very, very similar system, and that's the Ravens. So we'll wait and see. Of course, this could all be egg on their face if Shaun Wade picks them off in a playoff game or something like that.
Could you imagine?
Oh, my goodness. They're going to kill us. But we know their history of 5th-round picks and what they can do and turn them into Calais Campbell, turn them into Marcus Peters. So we'll have to wait and see there. But how you feeling about the receiver room, man? Because, look, these guys – I mean, we got 12 guys on the roster, and I think 5 or 6 are the ones actually practicing right now. So, and by the way, those 5 or 6 are not the top guys, not even close, as you know. Right. So, my concern is, like, they identified this as an area they need to get better at, and without anyone practicing, how can they get better?
That's a great question, man. And with the receiver room, the biggest question right now, I wish the biggest question we had right now was if there's enough talent, who's going to be the number one guy, who are the starters going to be. I wish that was the biggest question that we had right now. But our biggest question is, when is everybody going to be back? When is everybody going to return? How are those hamstrings going to heal up? Whatever's going on with Sammy Watkins. I know Harbaugh said they've been holding him out until he gets 100% healthy. But is he going to be ready week 1? I expect him to be, but still, you just had these worries in the back of your mind. Hollywood, I expected him to come back like the second week of practice, because I remember at the first preseason game against the Saints, before the game, they had Lamar out there. He was throwing passes to Hollywood and whatnot. I'm like, okay, Hollywood's coming back to practice this week, but we didn't get anything. And then even in second preseason, same thing. So I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be the week, but still nothing yet. So expecting him literally any day now. Boykin, I don't know what's going on with Boykin, and it scares me because he had been running on the sidelines. They said he was jogging on the sidelines, him and Hollywood and Deion Kane, for a couple of days. And then they said, I think 2 days ago, they said that Boykin was not there. So that kind of worried me a bit. Don't know what the status of him is right now. So we'll see. That's to be determined. But yeah, man, the biggest question right now is just health, and hopefully all the guys can be back, obviously by week 1, hopefully sooner. But they do have some time between now and then, so they should be good to go.
Yeah, and the other thing, I think Glenn is more concerned about it than I. Not that I'm not concerned about it, but I've mentioned this before, is that so just momentarily forget about all the injuries, right? But if you're as a Baltimore Ravens fan, if you're starting week 1, right, you got Lamar Jackson under center. We'll assume Hollywood is back. Now, that's a little bit of an assumption, but not a stretch. Right, because we feel like he's right there. If it were a game, he'd probably play. In fact, I heard that Hollywood retired from practice, not the NFL, just from practice. All right. No, but so we'll say you have Hollywood, you have Sammy Watkins, right, and you of course have Mark Andrews, and you have Prochet and Duvernay. So that's your passing attack. Is that not already better than 2019?
I mean, it sounded like it, especially with Sammy Watkins, because we have a veteran a young guy too. I think he's only 28. He just turned 28 like a couple weeks ago. So it seems like he's been around like a lot longer to be 28 years old. But yeah, it's definitely better than last year. And one of the biggest reasons I think is because of Duvernay and Prochet. Yeah. Because with Duvernay and Prochet, this is almost like a redo of their rookie season, because last year was not necessarily a wash, but almost a wash, because they didn't have this offseason and this preseason that they're getting right now. So we didn't get to hear about all these stories about Prochet just killing people in camp and whatnot. Duvernay doing this thing as well. We didn't get to see any of that last year because they didn't have this, but now they have this, and they have guys like Sammy Watkins, and they have another bonus with Keith Williams and T. Martin too. And just the extensive amount of work and the detail that they put into their craft with teaching them. I am so tired of freezing. What is
I know. I was going to say you're waxing poetically right now.
Man. But the good thing is you froze at a good time this time.
I know. Every time. Glenn, every time I freeze, it's like,
oh, it's a disaster.
I'm like kicking my nose or something.
Yeah, it's an
terrible
absolute mess.
So terrible. What is this? I wonder if is it me? I go, maybe it is. I
don't know.
No, it's okay. Y'all can say it. You can be like, yeah, you don't got to be modest about it.
No, I have no idea.
This is crazy. I never freeze on stream, y'all.
No,
I am using my older computer right now. It's not that old though, but
time to send it to the scrap heap, man.
Yeah. Look, I'm looking. I'm sure the Mac I'm on is older than the one that you consider your older one, because this thing is a little ancient. But I want to ask you about Prochet, because here we talk about this. We hear about this guy being the first one out in the field, the last one to leave. He's hitting the jugs every morning. He's impressing everyone in practice, beating everyone. But then the game comes and we don't hear from the guy. So do you think that this is something like that they're kind of keeping him under wraps, or do you think that this is something where when the lights are on, he kind of shrinks away, or I mean, do you need to see something out of Prochet to kind of sell you on this guy in this preseason game?
Somebody brought up a really good point to me a few days ago about Ravens, and this can happen with any team, but specifically with Ravens, with how every single year there's somebody that we hear so many stories about them throughout training camp. They're doing this, they're doing that. They look so amazing in training camp, and they're just out there just beating all these corners or making all these plays. Wow, this guy is going to have a great, phenomenal year. But then when they get in the game, it's almost crickets. And hopefully that's not the case with Prochet, because I know he hasn't even had that many targets thrown his way. But we hear about it every year. And then on the flip side, there's somebody who we don't hear anything about. It's really quiet. It's super quiet, and we don't hear anything about them in training camp. We don't know how they're doing, and we have so many question marks about how their preseason and training camp are going because we just don't have any stories about them. And then all of a sudden, when they get on the field, they shine. Mm-hmm. So with Prochet, is to me, I think it's to be determined. I'm not like, oh man, yeah, Prochet is going to absolutely destroy things this year. He's going to just beat all these cornerbacks. I hope he does, but I think it's just a wait and see type of thing for me. So I'm not going to get overly excited about it right now.
Is he a lock to make the team?
I think he is. I think he is. Before preseason started in training camp, I did not think he was. I thought he was going to be on the outside looking in. Maybe a practice squad candidate, but I don't even think he would last on the practice squad. But I thought he was going to be on the outs. But now, yeah, my tune on that has completely changed. I do think he is a lock.
Okay. Yeah. I'm interested to see how if we see anything from him on the offensive side. I mean, we know what he brings to the special teams game, but man, I mean, I'd like to see.
I want to see him dial some. Look, they purposefully dialed things up for Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tylen. I want to see, or
Tylen
Wallace, exactly. Like dial some things up for him. Force feed him the football a little bit while we're in preseason and see what he can do with it. Right? Like I don't think there's anything.
Josh Oliver got 10 targets in one of these games. I mean, can we get James?
He had like 8 yards.
Can we get James Prochet 5 targets? I mean, what do you got to do to get the guy something thrown?
That would be a good idea. And I know you said he's shown us stuff on special teams. I don't really think he has. I just think for James Prochet, with him as the punt returner, I just think he's a safe option, and that's it. Because he's not going to drop the ball, he's not going to fumble, he can catch everything, but he's not. He's also we're not expecting him to take one back for a touchdown. That'd be nice, but. Just he doesn't have that explosive speed like that. I would honestly rather Duvernay back there, but I think that Duvernay is going to be more involved on offense this year. I mean, he was involved a significant amount last year, especially for a rookie with no offseason, but I think he gets a lot more involved this year than he was last year.
I hope you're right, because I'm really excited about his ability to, to gain yak yards and his explosiveness and playmaking ability with the ball in his hands. Mm-hmm. Man, he's had 2 bad drops this preseason. I might be nitpicking, but I feel like those are the little things that can make the coach a little less confident in calling your number, that can make the difference when you're, not the number one guy who's going to get the lion's share of the targets, but you're only going to get, 2, 3, 4 a game would be an incredible amount for Devin Duvernay, right? Mm-hmm. So I just want to see that easy stuff. I mean, I know the one was a little bit more difficult than the other, but the second one was certainly very catchable. Even the first one, but the second one went right through his hands. So that'll be interesting as well to see, but I hope that we see some development there. A guy that we're going to have on soon, Cliff Brown, from the Baltimore Ravens, I was talking to him at the practice, and he said, I didn't even want the Ravens to sign who did we sign last year? The vet from the Dallas Cowboys. Jeez Whiz.
Oh, Dez Bryant.
Dez Bryant. He said, I wanted him to get the ball more to Devin Duvernay. Mm-hmm. Like, this kid needs the football. So he's really high on him. I know there's people that are really high on him. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. But I kind of want to transition here, stay on the offensive side of the ball, talk about the big boys up front. Now, we talked about the skill positions, but we got to talk about these big guys up front here as Ing situates himself. We totally get it. Been there, right, Glenn?
Oh, yes. Actually, it's usually you ducking out, and then boom, it's just me on the big screen. And if DK's not there to bail me out,
let's make that. Oh no, never mind. Wrong person.
Don't do that to me. But yeah, I mean, I think what the big guys up front, I'm really excited to see what these guys do, because they're finally together, right? Right. All camp, it's been, well, this guy's there, but that guy's not. Well, that guy's there.
3 out of 5, 2 out of 5.
Yeah, we got the right side, but we don't have the left side.
All right, he's moving again. He's moving.
All right, here we go. Let's see. There we go. There he is.
You know what you're starting to make me think of?
I just changed everything to my newer computer, so we should be straight.
You're starting to make me think of like Toy Story. Remember when the toys come alive, and then as soon as the
drops,
you're just frozen, but you're still talking. But you're just frozen in action, man. I'm like,
all right, let's do it.
But we finally got the big boys up front, right? The big slobber knockers are finally, as a unit, all there together. Even Tyree Phillips, he's now back
But Cleveland did not finish practice.
No, he didn't. And Tyree is now kind of taking over a lot of that left guard role, as well as trying to be a swing tackle and help out on right tackle when Big Al needs a day. But do you think that this offensive line is going to have enough time? There's about, I think, a 2-week gap after the last preseason game until the first game of the regular season. Do you think that's enough time to get some sort of cohesion and some sort of familiarity with each other to keep Lamar upright for these upcoming games?
I think it is. I do hope that they at least play maybe one series together, or maybe two, for this upcoming preseason game, for the week 3 preseason game against Washington. I know I don't expect them all to play together extensively, but hopefully we just get a little something, and not even for us as fans to see, but more so for them to get that live game action. And this will be the last live game action before it's time for the regular season to start. So just to kind of go through the motions and get rid of any rust that could be there, especially Ronnie Stanley, because Ronnie Stanley hasn't played since he got hurt in the Steelers game, I believe, last year. So it would be nice to see them all together. And even if they aren't, I do think they have a good amount of time, but it's just different because you can practice and practice and practice, which is cool, but you're going up against your teammates. Your teammates are, the defensive linemen are going to be trying to beat you and whatnot, but it's different going against a completely different opponent, especially when everything is on the line. So I do think they'll have a good amount of time, but it won't be anything like the actual real game. So it could be some growing pains early on in the season. Hopefully they don't even last the first quarter of the Raiders game. But it could be some growing pains early on as we go up against the Raiders and then the Chiefs. But I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I was much more confident in that week 2 game than I am right now, all based on the offensive line. But I do agree with you that I think they'll be all right, because while there's not a ton of continuity, I think if you really think about the guys that are going to be out there in the first quarter of the season, you call it, you got Ronnie Stanley, who's a vet, not only a vet, who's an all-pro, right? So if you plug, I know, Glenn, you talked about Tyree Phillips in at the left guard spot, but I think Powers wins that job. I think it will be Powers, and at this point, he's going into year 3.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not a rookie anymore, right? Like, he's got a sense of the offense, 3rd year under Greg Roman. Bozeman obviously is an established vet and starter, and then Zeitler and Villanueva, while they're new members of the team, Zeitler's in his natural position, and Alejandro obviously is switching. But at the end of the day, it's not the youngest line out there, right? Mm-hmm. So I think they're in a sweet spot to where that learning curve hopefully won't take too long, to where, we're 8 weeks in the season and people are still talking about when's this offensive line going to get it together.
That's a good point.
Right. So I'm hoping, I'm hanging my hat on that. And I tend to agree with you there that, I think they'll be able to get it together because they're all professionals. They know what they're doing, and they've all, for the most part, played at a high level in the NFL we've seen on tape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my thing about the left guard spot, and I want to get your take on this thing, Raven, is whoever starts week 1 at left guard, if the Ravens have success, even if maybe there is, like you mentioned, some growing pains, if the Ravens offense has success and they put up points, and that guy at left guard isn't Ben Cleveland because he's got some lingering effects from the concussion or another injury, do you think that unless there's an injury to either, whether it's Powers or Phillips, whoever ultimately wins that left guard spot, do you think Cleveland is just going to have to wait until there's another injury at that spot? Or do you think he works his way back into that lineup even with those guys healthy?
No, I think you got to wait it out. And another possibility too, because they signed Kevin Zeitler. I forget whether it's a 1 or 2 year deal. But Kevin Zeitler is going to be the right guard, but he's obviously not going to be a long-term answer for the Ravens at right guard. So with Ben Cleveland, say, for instance, worst case scenario for him, he doesn't win the starting job at left guard this year. Okay, stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. So you will just be a backup guy, and you'll be a plug-in guy just in case something happens to somebody else. But then he would have to start looking at it more long-term for the future. Oh, could I make the transition to right guard if and when Zeitler does end up retiring or being cut? So that's what I think could happen with him.
That's interesting because I mean, I guess I agree with you. I just haven't thought that far out yet. But yeah, I mean, maybe in his long-term development, maybe it's one of those things that's a blessing in disguise to where, okay, Powers, we'll say this year wins the starting job and stays healthy throughout and maintains that position. Then Cleveland doesn't have to worry about trying to transition out of his natural position. He stays there and kind of slides in as a replacement to Zeitler. That could be good for the Ravens in the short term and the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So something like that could be happening as well.
Would either of you be disappointed that Cleveland's not out there? When we talked about this line, the big guy, how big they are, and he was the biggest of them all, how bummed out would you be that if it is Powers or Phillips and it's not Cleveland?
I would just have to trust coaching at that point, and just really feel like, okay, if Cleveland didn't win it, all right, well, maybe he just wasn't better than who's out there. And then after that, then we would have to hope that whoever is out there, they show why they got chosen over Ben Cleveland, over Tyree Phillips, over Ben Powers, over Ben Bredesen, over whoever's going to be.
All the Bens.
Backups. Yeah. So,
my goodness.
We're going to see, man.
Yeah, all the Ben. Now, flipping to the other side of the ball and talking about this preseason game coming up, Justin Houston's now been here for a little bit, and it looks like the effects of bringing him in are already being felt throughout the team with the one-on-one instruction he's giving to the young guys post-practice, working on their hands and such. What do you want to see out of that young group? Because I think we know what we got in Justin Houston, right? I don't need to see Justin Houston beating a tackle. I feel pretty good about a guy that's already got almost 100 sacks in his career. But is there anything you're looking for from Odafe Owe and Dalen Hayes and saying, all right, finally, I saw it from that guy? Is there anything you need to see from them in this upcoming game?
Oh, in this game alone, just consistency. That's the biggest thing, just consistency. I think Odafe, he has to get more variety with his hands as far as his pass rush moves. And with Dalen Hayes, he just got to keep doing what he's doing. I know with Odafe away, they said he's very, very raw. I think they said this is his 5th or 6th year playing football, period, in his life. So we know that he has all the physical skills to do it, but he just, like I said, got to get more moves to his arsenal. But he has made some plays, though. So with him, just got to see that consistency. And with Dalen Hayes, like I said, he needs to just continue doing what he's been doing because he has, in my eyes, he's been looking really good. He has been looking really good. You could tell, like, his special move. Like, it almost reminds me of Mortal Kombat. When you beat somebody up, that power goes all the way down. All right, finish him. For Dalen Hayes, his finishing move is that dip. When he hits you with that dip, that's a wrap. You might as well just not even try to fight him no more, not even try to hold him back because he's getting to the quarterback. So I just consistency. That would probably be the biggest thing.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's something certainly not to take for granted because at the end of the day, anything we do in life that is great requires consistency. And usually guys in the Hall of Fame, it's not that obviously they're incredible talents, but consistency is a big part of that equation. It's not just about the 1 year, the 2 years. So yeah, that's a great point. Man, it's going to be interesting to see those guys up front. I got to say something really quick. Glenn, you done open the window.
Oh, here we go. He can't.
Right.
When I open a window in Raven, he can't not go through it. So what window did I open this time?
Look, I watched the video again because you know what? The video of Houston with Ferguson and with
Odafe. It's the Ferguson window. I knew it.
Yeah, it is. So this is the thing. First of all, you're absolutely right, Glenn. And what I was looking for is your observation that the way that Odafe was watching him was as if you would watch a father figure, right? Like he was very, he's focused. He had his undivided attention, all of it, right? Like you could tell that he was soaking it all in, trying to sponge it all in. I'm pretty sure Jalen Ferguson had his finger in his belly button and he was swatting a fly. All right. That dude was not paying attention, number one. Number two, everyone's talking about his physique. Come on, man. The one time you got a cut off and your belly's hanging over your waist, bro, I'm sorry. You're not an interior defensive lineman. You don't have the room to just bloop. Come on. No, you can't. I don't even have a word for it. I just said bloop.
Oh, man.
So I'm not sold on the guy. Somebody came out today and I think there was an article or
Wink Martindale said he was getting held an awful lot.
Yeah, but it's all clicking is what I heard the quote was in his third year. It's all clicking.
Yeah.
I don't see anything clicking. There's no clicking happening. Just gotta
Jalen
say.
Ferguson, yeah, it's tricky. I think he has a lot of pressure on him right now, man. With them and then like he already had enough with them signing with them drafting Odafe away, and then they doubled down and ended up drafting Dalen Hayes too. So he was already feeling the heat. But then on top of that, like you start to hear all these rumors about Justin Houston, and then nothing happens. They even brought him in for a visit, but nothing happens. He's like, oh, okay. All right, I'm good. I'm straight. And then a couple months later, boom, Ravens end up making the move. So now it's like, oh, man. And he's supposed to be an outside linebacker. So I think he should be a defensive end, maybe even an interior defensive lineman, like you talked about that he's not. But I think that he should be at one of those positions because as an outside linebacker, you got to drop back. You got to go into coverage. And right now, well, Jalen Ferguson is not that. Mm-hmm. He's a guy, hands in the dirt, like my guy What's the B Word said, hands in the dirt. That's where he should be at. But as far, like you said, with the new physique and whatnot, maybe I missed something last year. I haven't necessarily seen it, but like I said, maybe I missed something last year to what his physique was compared from then to now.
It must have been real bad then because
this guy,
man, Jimmy does not have no love for Jalen Ferguson.
No, but I tell you what, I think you're right. Might as well let him do what he's good at. Put your hand in the dirt and eat a large pizza after the game. Put him on the inside. Let him do his thing. But he's big enough. I mean, honestly, he's got
the frame that he could get up to a Derek Wolfe type weight. Same height. He's got the frame.
Big enough. I mean, he's massive.
Does he have the workout?
But this is my question. This is really what it comes down to because we're talking about the third preseason game. We're talking about the end of this roster, right? That's why he's the topic of conversation. Mm-hmm. Today, if you are making a decision and you got to take, they're different positions, but everyone is interconnected. You got to take Ardarius Washington, Jalen Ferguson. Where are you going?
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, that's your only options.
Yeah, I would go with Ardarius. Because with Jalen, I mean, in the limited amount of time that he's been out there, as far as the past couple of years, we haven't seen it yet. And even though he was a third round pick, I believe, Eric DeCosta has shown that he'll make moves and make decisions early rather than late. I mean, we literally just saw today he traded Sean Wade, a draft pick from this year.
Yeah, he just moved into his apartment.
Man.
Crazy. He just signed his lease.
Jeez. So, yeah, Eric DeCosta, he won't be afraid to make that move if Jalen Ferguson isn't cutting it.
And now I wonder, too, if the LJ Ford injury, while like Jimmy said, different positions, still may open up a roster spot for either one of those guys. And if they decide to go a little lighter at middle than they were expecting to go, because they certainly didn't predict the LJ Fort would blow his knee out. But maybe that does open the door for Jalen, and maybe that's why we've been hearing his name more often. We see his face in the press conferences. Maybe that's them trying to maybe sell him to the fans and say, look, we know he hasn't done well, but he's on the come and he's right around the corner. So, I guess it's a wait and see on that front seven there. But the one other guy I wanted to ask you about, how does Ben Mason, how does he make this team, Ingraven? I mean, they already got a Pro Bowl fullback. Where do they put Ben Mason?
On an IR stash. I don't think he makes the team at all. Nothing against him. He's been doing his thing, but I just don't. Two fullbacks, I don't see it at all. And I know some people have suggested, maybe Pat Ricard can go back to playing more defense. No.
That ship has sailed, right?
That's a wrap now, man. And with the thing with Ben Mason, I think that this year for him is going to be an IR stash. But then next year, he could possibly be taking over because Pat Ricard is in the last year of his deal. And with the way that the offense is going, you are going to be passing a little bit more. You're still going to run the ball, but you're going to be passing a little bit more. And you still have to pay Lamar Jackson. You still have to pay a Mark Andrews. With those guys getting over, and those guys are going to make a lot of money. With you having to pay those guys, you got to find other areas where you have to cut back a little bit. And to pay a fullback his third contract, I just don't see it, especially when you just drafted a fullback the previous year, which will be this year. When I'm talking in the future, obviously. But I think that he just gets stashed this year, and then next year he could possibly take over for Pat Ricard. and Pat Ricard could end up moving on, and it would hurt. But so did Kyle Juszczyk when he had to move on. So did Lorenzo Neal when he had to move on. So did LaRon McClain and so many other fullbacks that the Ravens have been through.
Vontae Leach.
Leach.
I mean, man. Talk about a blocker. Holy heck. My goodness. But yeah, that's a great question, Glenn. And I got to ask you, I got to follow it up with this one. Do you have any intuition or bold predictions about the back end of this roster? Any guys that, like you were kind of talking about it, that haven't gotten a ton of pub, but you see making this team, even though, you know, it's not popular opinion or not something that people are talking about?
That is a really good question, because I feel like people have talked about Darius Washington a lot ever since we first signed him. And then after watching the game, it's like, okay, yeah, we see what you were talking about. How did this guy go undrafted? But I think it's because of his size and his speed. His size and his 40 time, not even his speed, because he has football speed. But an under the radar guy.
I think the tight end position's kind of interesting, because does Josh Oliver make it? Does Tomlinson make it, who they brought back?
What I think with that's a really good point that you bring up. I think Josh Oliver right now, I think he's a lock. But with Eric Tomlinson, what I think they'll do, and because I know they've been saying, oh, Nick Boyle could be back for week 1. But we haven't seen him practice yet. He still got time, but we haven't seen anything yet. And we know with the Ravens, even though if a guy has dealt with a long-term injury and he's just coming back, then they're not going to rush him into the lineup. They're not going to rush his playing time, anything like that. So what I think they'll do is cut, waive, release Eric Tomlinson. No, not in a disrespectful way, but I don't think anybody's going to pick him up on waivers. Nobody's going to put in anything for Eric Tomlinson. So I think he'll be there for the Ravens picking, because they'll carry Nick Boyle to the active roster. And then they could possibly put him on IR to where he can return after 3 weeks and then bring back Eric Tomlinson. Because I don't think they'll just go into week 1 with Mark Andrews and Josh Oliver. I mean, last year they went into week 1 with just 2 tight ends, which I did not think was going to happen at all. That blew my mind, but I don't think they'll do that this year.
Yeah, and it bit him in the butt, right? So I agree with you on that.
It did. So yeah, I don't see that happening this year. I think they go 3 tight ends, and like I said, they carry Nick Boyle initially on the roster, then possibly place him on IR, and then bring back Eric Tomlinson to fill that roster spot.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know how Nick Boyle could. I mean, they can tell us all they want that he's going to be out there week 1. How can a guy who literally has not practiced a single play be out there week 1? So, and he could be option for PUP list as well, where he's forced to miss the first 6 weeks. Because I mean, you need time. I mean, you got to have some practice time, even if you are familiar with the offense. But
forgot about that.
I want to talk a little bit of kicker, because I saw the Panthers traded a conditional 7th for the New York Giants kicker. And that shocks me, because they just got done a joint practice with the Baltimore Ravens, where they got a front row seat to the Jake Verity show. I mean, why did they not come calling? Do you think that the trade request, the trade value is too high? Because if we see Jake go out and put up 3 field goals, because I don't want to see any of Jay Tucker this game. I want to see all of Verity, and let's run up that trade value and see if we can't steal a pick from someone.
I think they don't trust the Ravens. Reason I say that is because of, was this last season or 2 seasons ago? It seems like it was forever. But Kare Vedvik. I think with that Kare Vedvik, that kicker / punter, I was for sure. When the Vikings traded for him, I was like, oh, yeah, he's going to do great over there. He's going to do a phenomenal job, because we saw what he did with the Ravens. He learned under Justin Tucker, and we breed kickers over here. It's like it's second nature, man. We don't even got to think twice about it. But when he went over there, he did a terrible job. And the Vikings, I guess they felt like they got fleeced, like they got okey-doked. So I think the Panthers might have looked at that and be like, we don't know what it is, but yeah, we don't trust this kicker. Even though we did, like you said, saw him up close and personal, but we don't trust this kicker. So, we're not even going to mess with it.
Do you envision any other teams willing to give up some draft capital for him?
For sure. Who? I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but I do think he will be on somebody's team for sure. But see, I could see it like maybe a conditional pick, or even a 6th or 7th round pick. But teams, they can chance it. It all depends on how how they're feeling their chances are of landing him, because they know one way or another he's not going to be on the Ravens. So they could play the waiting game because they know if nobody trades for him, then he's not going to be on the Ravens roster come Tuesday at 4 p.m. So he'll be put on waivers, and they could risk it that way. Or if you really feel like there's another team on the waiver wire that could get him before you, then you got to send the Ravens something.
It's going to be interesting.
The Shaun Wade thing. I'm sure they put their feelers out, and they did the same. Right. I mean, hopefully they do the same with Verity, and they at least get a conditional 7. I mean, a conditional 7th that would replace the conditional 7th. They're likely going to have to give up for Josh Oliver. So
right. Yeah.
I think, and let's be honest, no one does it better than Eric DeCosta. So, but the last one I have for you, Ingraven, is about the leader, the captain, the most humble and down to earth superstar, maybe that we've seen in the last 20, 30 years in the NFL. I mean, it's been a long time since we've seen a superstar like Lamar Jackson, but we haven't seen him yet this preseason. Now that the line is back together, at least almost all back together, do you want to see him, and do you think that we need to see him in this last preseason game?
I would like to see him. I don't really think it's a necessity, but I think I would like to. The reason I say it's not a necessity, because we're not going to see Hollywood Brown. We're not going to see Sammy Watkins. We're obviously not going to see Rashad Bateman either. So who he's throwing to out there, he'll have some chemistry with him and whatnot, but it's not going to be the guys that are going to be out there week 1. But I would like to see him, just even if it's just 1 or 2 drives with the offensive line, though, with his starting guys on the offensive line. Everybody just a couple of drives and then, okay, call it a day. But if his starting receivers aren't going to be out there, I don't think it's the biggest deal if we didn't see him.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I would like to see him, like you said, but certainly not a necessity. And if we do, just to reiterate your point, I want to see it with an offensive line because look, if the Redskins come out in the first quarter, and they're starting their, you got Montez Sweat, you got Chase Young, you got who's the kid out of Alabama that plays in the middle for them? Allen.
Oh, no.
Not
Allen. Yeah, Jonathan Allen.
Jonathan Allen, who's an absolute monster. I mean, their line is ridiculous, so we don't want scrubs out there in front of him and throwing LJ out there. Just
Foster Sarrell. I don't want to see Foster Sarrell protecting the blind side.
Yeah, or McCauley matched up at left tackle against Chase Young. No, thank you. Don't want to see any of that. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. We had an absolute blast.
Hold on, before I let you go, I can't believe you almost forgot the third running back spot. Ingraven.
Oh yeah, we got it. Yeah, we got to get your take.
Off last show. I went in on some Justice Hill. I'm not a Justice Hill guy. I don't think it would send a good message to the team if after what Tyson Williams and even Nate McCrary both have shined in this preseason. I don't think it sends a good message, even though I understand the value he brings to the special teams game. So if we see another good performance out of both those guys, or certainly it looks like Tyson right now is the leader in that camp, could we see a scenario where Justice Hill is not on this final roster?
That's it's looking like that's where it's headed, and it would hurt, but yeah, it's looking like that's what's going to go down. I remember comments from a very smart person, very wise person who has a lot of football knowledge. And what he said, I'm paraphrasing. I can't say I'm quoting, I'm paraphrasing. But he said, if you didn't average at least over 5 yards a carry on this team, this Ravens team that broke all these rushing records, then you don't really belong here. And it's tough. And he even said, hey, it doesn't even matter the situation, whether you came in late in the game or not, you shouldn't be here. And I feel like I feel like with Tyson Williams and with McCrary, with those two guys showing out over these past couple of games, that has put them ahead of Justice Hill on the roster. And I feel like now it's almost too little too late for Justice Hill because he's been hurt too. So you're already behind, and then you would have to play catch up in less than a week. I don't even think he returned to practice yet.
No.
So it's looking like for him, it's looking like he's going to be going on IR too. Unless he just even if he does possibly come back to practice this week, but it's looking like he might be headed to either IR or just either way. I don't think he's going to be on a 53-man roster. And I think right now that that Williams has the edge on him right now. McCrary's shortly after Williams, but I think Williams is that third running back right now.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mentioned to Glenn, I mean, in our live stream on Tuesday that run was reminiscent of a young Gus to me. Like when he popped off the screen, when he came in preseason and everyone was like, who's this kid? Right. And obviously turned into something. Not saying that Tyson's going to turn into a Gus Edwards, especially as highly as I hold Gus as a football player, but certainly
he's going to name his future son Gus, by the way. That's how much he loves Gus.
No, we won't. We aren't going that far. We are not going that far. But,
middle name? Middle? No. Okay.
No, I'm good. But no, it's been an absolute blast. I agree with you though. And thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it as always.
Yeah, you already know,
the time rendered. Very grateful for it. I'm pretty sure everyone knows where you're at, but let them know anyway, just in case there's somebody that's living under a rock.
No, man. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, even TikTok now too, at IngravenVids. It's Team Keep It Clean, and it's got videos for you every single day, whether it's about the Ravens. 9 times out of 10, it's about the Ravens, but we just talk NFL now too. Things have already been very, very, very busy, but with the NFL season getting ready to start, things are about to be absolutely wild. Things are going to pick up a lot. Like I said about y'all, I really do appreciate you guys having me on. I really, really appreciate you guys, your channel, your platform, the way you do things, the way you run your show. I appreciate the consistency with it. I appreciate the high quality work ethic with it. I appreciate all the different guests you guys have on. So that brings some different variety to it. I just appreciate everything about you guys, man. So y'all keep doing your thing. Love what you do. So thank you for that, man.
Appreciate it.
You're the best,
look,
man.
Glenn's
You're
over
the
there
best,
blushing, man.
I mean, I am because you came on when we were nothing. I mean, you've been with us from the start. When my shout out to my nephew Tyler put me down on you and your videos, and so you couldn't be more grateful for your time. You're the man. Appreciate everybody. Go sub his channel, check him out, and we'll talk soon, Ingraven.
I appreciate it.